I didn't even know how to collect the money, to be very honest. मैंने उसी से पूछा कि भाई पैसे कैसे लूँ, ठीक है? So he told me कि you have to register for PayPal. And I was like, PayPal क्या होता है?
You said you have invested in somewhat 38 startups, right? Okay. Out of these 38, how do you feel that you're really like making it or will make it both in the years?
I think I can sound three options. I was pretty clear that I'm not going to do a job in my life, and till date, I've not done a single job. Like I've not taken that per month kind of a package from anyone, any company. I've been an entrepreneur since I was 16, right? Especially if you have bootstrapped your entire life, you have not taken in raised capital, you have to sell to build something better. But at the end of the day, I trust my gut. Every time I've gone against my gut, it has been a disaster.
What is the right time to get your platforms marketed? Like, while you're building it, or once you've built it, you've tested it out, and then you should start. Amazing. I think you've given out a master magic plan to everyone out there. Is there also something that, as a founders, one must see that, okay, I should get this investor and not this investor? I mean, can founders also choose investors? वेलकम टू येट अनदर एपिसोड ऑफ सत्य मंथन। आप जब भी इस चैनल पर वापस आते हैं, आप हमें याद दिलाते हैं कि हमें आपके लिए कुछ ना कुछ स्पेशल लेकर के आना है। तो आज हम आपके लिए लेके आए हैं एक ऐसे गेस्ट जो जानते हैं SaaS प्लेटफॉर्म्स को राइट फ्रॉम 10 years एंड मोर देन 10 years, मोर देन अ डेकेड। एंड इस डेप्थ में SaaS प्लेटफॉर्म्स को जानना, उनके साथ काम करना, सॉफ्टवेयर्स को बनाना, बहुत कुछ आज हम जानेंगे कि पहले की सिचुएशंस क्या थी और आज जब AI जैसी चीज़ें आ गई हैं तो सिचुएशंस कैसे बदल गई हैं। इन सब चीज़ों के बारे में हम जानेंगे आज के इस एपिसोड में। सो बी देयर टिल द एंड. Do not forget to subscribe to the channel because all the updates, all the raw filters will be coming there. Let's dive in deep into today's episode. Hi Udit, welcome to the show today. We are so lucky to have you today. And to start with, I would just like to know कि आपने अपनी entrepreneurship journey कैसे start करी?
Firstly, Saakshi, thank you so much for inviting me. It's an absolute pleasure to be over here. मेरी entrepreneurial journey बहुत fluke में रही है, I would say, because when I was 14-15 years old, I got into gaming. And when I got into gaming, I was very curious kind of a person कि rather than enjoying the game, मैं ये सोचता था कि ये बना कैसे, how is it made, right? That led me to start googling कि कैसे बन रहा है, क्या हो रहा है। तब मुझे पता चला कि चीज़ें जो डिज़ाइंस होती है वो फोटोशॉप करके कोई सॉफ्टवेयर है उससे बनती है। तो started learning that. फिर उसके बाद गेमिंग कैसे बनती है, चीज़ें कैसे होती है, तो स्टार्ट लर्निंग की उसको सॉफ्टवेयर डेवलपमेंट बोलते हैं। तो ऑल ऑफ दीज टर्म्स वर वेरी रॉ फॉर मी बिकॉज आई कम फ्रॉम अ मारवाड़ी फैमिली वेयर टेक दूर दूर तक नहीं था। आई एम एक्चुअली द फर्स्ट पर्सन इन टेक इन माई एंटायर फैमिली. So that's how I got into entrepreneurship. But more importantly, tech entrepreneurship, because entrepreneurship तो मतलब मेरे सब जगह मेरे पूरे फैमिली में everyone has been entrepreneur, either from my mom's side, dad's side, सभी लोग they are running their own business, but it has been more of a traditional kind of like businesses, right? अब तो हम उसको startups बोलते हैं, but पहले वो just call it business, धंधा हम बोलते थे. So that's how I got into it, and then my journey just kept on happening from there. So I would say like internet was like very fluke for me. Was not planned कि I would become an entrepreneur or internet entrepreneur या मैं ऐसे software बनाऊँगा. हाँ, ये था कि I enjoyed it with what I saw, and my journey just got into it.
Wow, sir. I mean, what was the approximate age when you started?
I think I was 16 when I got my first project. So मुझे एक logo designing का project आया था. It was a customer from Israel, and he paid me $30 वो time पे. And I didn't even know how to collect the money, to be very honest. मैंने उसी से पूछा कि भाई पैसे कैसे लूँगा, ठीक है? तो he told me कि you have to register for PayPal, and I was like, PayPal क्या होता है? So I registered my account for PayPal, and now the problem was how do I even transfer money from PayPal to Indian bank account? That was another problem because back in those days there were a lot of clause and laws from RBI कि आप international payments accept नहीं कर सकते. So very few banks would do that. So there was a different sort of learning curve for me. So that's how I got started at a very, very young age.
Sure, that's amazing. So that takes me like 16 years down in kind of means.
No, I was born in 1980. So we're talking about 2006.
2006, yeah. Okay. So let's go to 2006. I mean that time technology was not so much in this space like that's in the space that's
it wasn't.
right now.
In fact,
so how you landed up to a client in Israel?
So what happened was, I think when I was in fifth grade, मेरे school में that is when computer lab first time खुला था. And when I saw that Windows 98 का logo, right, I was very fascinated. I was like, this is incredible, right? And the first thing we were taught was paint. So, and I would go to my school teacher and I was asked कि ये मेरे को painting नहीं करनी कि बना कैसे जहाँ पे paint होता है. And she was like, don't ask question. जाके इच्छा जो बोल रहा हूँ because it was new for them as well, right?
Right.
So that is how I started getting my curiosity and I was like कि इसी में कुछ करना है. Then whenever there would be computer lab every week, I would be very excited to spend that 1 hour trying to learn new things. That's how my entire journey kind of like started, right? And then I think when I was in 8th grade, I told my mom that I want computer because I want to really build things, I want to learn more things. And it was very difficult because school में खाली 1 घंटा होता था पूरे हफ्ते में. So that would not give me enough time to learn, right? And technology, especially computer, was a luxury back in 2003, right? It was a big time luxury. So somehow I convinced my mom after like 6 months, 1 year kind of a thing. She broke her FD. उसके बाद उन्होंने FD तोड़ के वो computer लाया. It was Intel Pentium 4 back then. And I think my life changed and I keep telling my mom that's probably the best investment she could have been at right? Because अगर उन्होंने वो नहीं किया होता तो I don't know where would I have been, right? Honestly, I would have been probably doing something else in my life. So that really gave me my space where I would just sit down, learn more about computers, and then eventually after a year I convinced my parents to also get me internet. And I think that sort of like really changed my life. और वो टाइम पे था 256 CBPS का इंटरनेट कनेक्शन हुआ करता था जो I think अभी की जनरेशन चलेगा. But I think it was different challenge altogether. But I think my parents played a very major role in support in terms of whatever I wanted to do. I think अगर उन्होंने वो support नहीं किया होता ना, तो I wouldn't have gotten that freedom जो मुझे वो young age में जाके do whatever kind of my body wants.
So like, since we are talking about this phase where youngsters are like, getting addicted to entrepreneurship or getting attracted to this kind of things, there's one thing that comes into my mind. Do you ever felt ki your family, because they come from a business background, maybe that was there and that's the reason, like, why they were so forward to give you whatever you wanted? I mean, definitely it would have been some kind of talks and struggles and negotiations between parent and a child. But still, I mean, as compared to a service, because I come from a service background, right? I mean, my whole family was into a service background. I remember my brother starting his journey as a YouTuber at that particular time when YouTube was not so much friendly and stuff. People were not so much friendly with YouTube. Again, the same things, the internet was slow, the PCs used to be that square PCs, everything was so old-fashioned that time. So at that particular time, I still remember, like, when my parents were from that service background, उनको ऐसा लगता था यानी करी क्या रहा है? Like, what is he actually trying to be? Because for them, being an engineer, being a something else which was like, more relevant to the market was something that they liked. So do you feel that you were more blessed coming from a business class family or something like that? I mean,
so there are a couple of things, right? First, I am blessed because from the very young age, my mom always taught me you have to start something of your own. She didn't tell me what I have to start, but she implemented this seed that you have to start something of your own. So I was pretty clear that I'm not going to do a job in my life, and till date, I've not done a single job. Like I've not taken that per month kind of a package from anyone, any company. I've been an entrepreneur since I was 16, right? In that way, it helped. In terms of getting everything I wanted, that wasn't the case, right? Because I really had to prove myself to even get something like that. Because again, these are luxury items, and these are the things that even my parents were aware of. That computers can be that big, right? Mobiles, I think I got my first mobile when I got into college. Right, and that it was from my own savings that I got my first phone, right? So technology was a luxury about 17, 20 years ago, right? Now it's a necessity. So I think in that way, my parents did play a major role because again, I would see my dad going to his factory. So he runs his own factory. He would leave to his factory at 5 a.m. in the morning, come back at 11 p.m. And I saw him really struggle and build things. So that's something that I've seen. So I know how important is hard work in your life. And I think that is something that the things that I've learned today are the things that I implemented, and all of those things I've learned from my parents and my family around, because it's not just my parents. My dad was an entrepreneur, but it's also all his brothers. And everyone from my mom's side family, everyone is running that business, right? So I was just blessed to be born in a business environment where I was taught, right? But then again, running a business is not easy either, right?
Right.
You see all the glories and everything, you see all the successes, but each success takes a decade of overnight success.
Right.
So it's not easy. You have to sacrifice a lot of things. While a lot of my friends and everyone enjoyed their college life, I was busy working. Right, so I did not have that typical college life where I would have a lot of memories of colleges. Right, I didn't have those memories because I would bunk, I would just sit, and I would take on projects, I would work. Right.
Right.
So you make a lot of sacrifices as well to be where you are today. But at the end of the day, I'm happy where I am.
Wow, that's amazing. So diving into the SaaS world now, okay? So for the viewers, like I would just like to know, what is actually a SaaS platform? Like, what is the basic juices of a SaaS platform?
So, in a very nutshell, I would say if you provide any service, the service as a sector is not scalable. So, this is where you turn that service and create a software around that particular service. Now, software does the same thing that a human would do. And that is where SaaS word comes in, which stands for software as a service. Where software does the same thing, where now it becomes scalable because that service is now being turned into a product. So that's basically a nutshell definition of what SaaS is all about.
Right. So this really helps us to better know what SaaS platforms are, because when it comes to terminology, many people have been using different kinds of terminologies, and it really works. But then when it comes to understanding the depth, the core of what actually platforms are, what is entrepreneurship around building platforms, I think this still needs a lot of thought processes into what really can be turned into a SaaS platform. Right? So since you being an expert into this field, I would like to ask you, how do you judge, or how do you come to know what kind of services can be turned into a platform? Because I'm sure there might be some that can't be.
So every single service can be turned into a product today, into a software today. Now I'll give you an example. Let's say if you run a performance marketing agency, where you run a lot of Facebook ads. Just to give an example. Now, earlier there were no softwares for it. You would have to typically just sit down, create creatives, write sales copies, ad copies. You do that all this manually. Now, this is where now AI is coming into picture. AI can create images for you. AI can create all the ad copies for you. Now, AI can also analyze the ads for you to understand what ad is performing how, right? Now, this is where a bit of service angle comes in, because these softwares will not run by its own. Right. So, what you would probably require a team of 5 people to run performance marketing for one company. Now, you just require one person. You still require a person. So, that's how you combine softwares with services. So, it's not that a software will just run on its own. Everything will run on its own. But now, what happens is your client gets far more visibility because they have a dashboard. They can see what is going on. So that helps the companies to build a lot of trust. At the end of the day, it's a game of trust. If you can trust me, you will win more customers. If a customer if they don't trust you, they will not sign up with you. It's as simple as that. So every single services can be turned into product, but at the end of the day, the transactions are still done by human. So the human interaction can never be ever replicated into a software at any.
Yeah. Right.
Like this podcast cannot be, it can be done using AI, but then again, people will not watch that.
Maybe.
Stories are always going to be the real authentic, right? Experiences can never be done. So that's how you kind of like understand. So now, if you feel, but also the best way to kind of like start a software company is by actually running an agency to begin with. So if you enjoy a certain aspect of your business, start an agency around it, start services around it, because when you start services, you get to interact with your clients and you get a lot of in-depth knowledge and insights. You understand the problem statement. To build a software, you need to understand how to solve and resolve and understand the problem statement in depth. If you cannot understand the problem statement, you cannot build the depth of the software. That's the most important part. And slowly, once you maybe cross a team of 10, 15 people, you have about 10 clients now. And now you can slowly think of using the same money that you're making through your agency or services, invest that into software. And now you can go from 10 to 1,000 with the same team also.
Right. Right. So for the people who are just starting, okay, now there are two things that comes here from this wireless. One that's coming to my mind is, okay, we say that it's easy, first find out the problem, convert it into service, check if the services can be transformed into a platform that can serve n number of people, right? Also, if we see today, the platform world is becoming very competitive. Right? Okay. Like for example, Swiggy is a bank. I'm just taking an example. Ola, Uber. Right? Okay. Any kind of platform which is service based is now becoming more and more kind of competitive. Right? So if someone has to start a SaaS platform in today's date where so much of things are happening, like already existing players are there. You have AI coming into place. Then sometimes what I feel is sometimes even the problems are also not real. Like, the problems that are being solved via a particular platform is not actually a real problem that they are solving. They're just enforcing a problem onto you कि ये एक problem है. And इसको हम solve करें. Okay. So what is the best way to start it and at the same time see to it that we are not merging into the markets?
So firstly, there are two kinds of problem statement. One is nice to have problems that you want to solve,
right.
And then there is a must to have problem that you want to solve. You have to first of all understand which problem statement you want to solve. Something that's nice to have. So for example, luxury. Luxury is a nice to have a problem to solve, right? And then there is necessity, right? So necessity is something where you solve that because there is a necessity in the market. You have to understand that.
Right.
Now, any sector today is competitive. What you have to do is go niche, find a vertical problem that is also horizontally expandable. So vertical in the sense that the problem statement is very large, but you want to start with one problem statement, just one problem among that large set of problems. Because if the market is not big enough, you are not going to scale.
No.
If the market itself is very small, then you cannot scale. So you have to also identify that if the market or market capital is small for that particular problem, then you might not be able to get into product because you will not get investments. And for you to grow becomes a bit of a problem as well. Because there's just not enough people who would want to buy that. So that's one thing you have to do. So to give you an example, you talk about Ola and Uber, then there's Rapido. That they came in and they just focus on two-wheeler market. Because neither of them were focusing on that particular market. They started with that, then they started focusing on autos. Again, neither of them are focusing on that. Now both of them are trying to solve that, but Rapido has built their name by focusing on this. So it's very, very important. Now there are more players coming in who wants to solve problems again locally first. So you all have to start small. Make sure that you're unit positive and cash flow positive within that region before you start expanding. The problem comes in when you're trying to expand way too quickly. That's when the problem comes in. Right. Now if you look at every successful business that exists today in India, they're all 30 years, 40 years, 50 years old. Right. The problem is everyone wants to achieve the 50-year success in 3 years today. That's where the problem comes in.
So the pathway that I see right now, I not do okay. One, I have a service, I start giving that service, right? Now I check which parts of services can be converted into a product or a software, right? And I see then if I can give or deliver that service via a digital product so as to serve to more people, right? Now the third stage comes for scaling, right? Where I have to see, okay, whether should I serve the local market or a particular niche and then make myself profitable there and then expand further.
Correct. So, but again, this is where if you want to scale, make sure the market itself is big enough. So to give you an example, let's again talk about Ola and Uber. If people did not have phone, that problem is not solvable. Right. So there are certain problems you can only solve if a related problem is solved first. If those problems are not solved, we cannot solve problems that's sitting on top of that. So it's very important to understand these aspects whenever you're building a product that makes sure the market is big. Otherwise, scaling is going to be a big problem. Your cost of acquisition of a customer is going to be about 3 to 5x higher because there's just not enough market for it. Right? That's what you have to understand. Like these are very important aspects whenever you're building product. Otherwise, it becomes very difficult to scale.
Also, like when we were having conversation before this podcast, you just told me that you have built and sold the softwares, right? What was that?
So I sold to a couple of companies so far. I'm a 5X founder. So I sold a couple of companies during my early 20s and mid 20s before building like my current website, TinyCheck, which is India's very first Agentic AI venture studio platform. So we now just focus on building Agentic AI softwares in different verticals that no one is thinking of. We're the first ones to tap into that particular market. Because when I started building the product, one thing I've identified is to be take the first mover's advantage. If someone doesn't want to take the risk, someone has to take the risk. Whoever takes the maximum risk gets the maximum reward. Right? So that's when we built this. We're the first ones in India to be able to do this. And we've been doing very successfully since last year.
No. But then, don't you feel like, building something, you get connected to it, and how you're able to sell it up?
I think that's the biggest mistake a lot of entrepreneurs make. They get emotionally attached to the business. You have to keep emotions and business completely aside. For anyone to really make it big in their life, you need to have exits, right? Especially if you have bootstrapped your entire life, you have not taken and raised capital. You have to sell to build something better. It requires capital. Without capital, if you want to build something better, it's just not possible, right? So if you want to build the next big thing, it requires bigger capital. So if you want to tap into a bigger market, it requires even bigger capital. How do we start? We start small, right? And then you sort of like start making exits. Otherwise, if you don't do that, you will have to start selling a part of your piece of your company where now other people will start making decisions for you. That makes it very difficult because you want to move in A direction, the other person is saying move in B direction because I also have a stake in the company. Now what do you do?
Yeah.
So this is where gradually, once you make a couple of exits, you start building something better. So for example, you look at Flipkart's founder, Satya Manthan, who sold his company. After that, he's building Navi, and I think he owns about 98.5% of the company now. Right? And that company is already like, I think, a unicorn status. So again, if you want to build something better, it's very, very important to know when to exit. The problem is people want to exit when the business is going down and not when the business is at.
Right.
It's very, very important to know when to exit, especially if you are in the initial stages of your career. So I think I was able to do that, twice. So, learned quite a lot, and I think that became my entire business model at TinyCheck.
That's great. So, as far as I know, I believe you have also been investor into some businesses?
Yeah, I've invested in about 38 startups.
Okay. So, moving forward, I'd like to take our conversation to this direction where I want to know, what is it that you see when you start becoming an investor in your particular business? What are the main criteria of identifying whether I can invest this business or is this business investable or not?
So the only thing I look at is are the founders. Because your business is at such an early stages, right? That generally we are like, angels are the first checks.
Right.
So when you're putting the first check, you cannot evaluate the business, right? If a founder is willing to make it work, no matter what kind of business you are into, they will make it work. So you better the founders and not the business that they're trying to build. So don't dive into much detail about what they're trying to do, what market are they trying to solve. None of that will matter because those stats and statistics are changing so rapidly today because of AI and so many other factors that you see like in the last 6 months, the agentic space is a brand new category which is $80 billion. This $80 billion market did not exist 6 months. So the markets are getting created very rapidly now which did not exist. So the only thing you can do is bet on the founders because at the end of the day, they are the ones who are running the show. Right? So that's the only thing you can bet on.
Yeah. Okay. So, but then, is there also something that as a founders, one must see that, okay, I should get this investor and not this investor? I mean, can founders also choose investors?
It's very important for founders to actually do that. So generally what happens is, look, even Lala has money. You can take the Lala money, right? I call like if the investor doesn't know about your sector and cannot add value, then I call it Lala money, right? So now the problem is if you take such money, they will be clueless. And they would just ask you one thing every 2 months, 3 months, mere paise kamayenge. Where am I going to get the money back, right?
Right.
And generally when you're putting in startups, forget your money for 5. If you cannot wait for 5 years, do not invest in startups. It's as simple as that, because generally there is a cycle of 5 to 7 years. 5 years is the bare minimum that you have to wait for. So now the biggest problem comes in over here is if you take money from investors who are just giving you a check, you're missing out on a big opportunity because you are just rushing into it and you're being timid. And that's just कोई भी पैसे डाल दो मैं बना दूंगा, चीज़ें वैसे काम नहीं करती. You have one right investor and take some less money from them, but that one person might be connected to hundreds of right people, and it's all about network at the end of the day. If you can get and tap into the right networks, you move a lot faster. So it's very important to cherry pick your angels. It's very, very important. Until I think I would say your pre-series A, cherry pick your investors. Post-series A, then it becomes VC money, then it doesn't really matter. Because by then you've already found a product market fit. So you already know whom to sell, how to sell, where to sell. Now you just require more capital to deploy so that you can scale. So now that it doesn't matter whether actually कि कौन capital डाल रहा है, कहाँ से आ रहा है, then it doesn't matter much after that. But until pre-series A, you have to cherry pick.
I believe these points are worth noting. Thank you so much for sharing these. So basically now I would like to move towards the current scenarios of the platforms. Okay, and because even I study a lot of businesses. My hobby is studying businesses. So when I study businesses, I've normally seen with platforms specifically these days. Earlier, there was some earlier fixed software. For example, like if we take Microsoft, okay, or if we take Adobe, for example. Okay, now these have been companies that have been through ages now, like we have seen from our childhood, right? Until that, from the time that we had systems in our hand. Now moving forward, when the new things are coming out, okay, for example, if I take Adobe and I take Canva, okay, now these things, or Photoshop or Canva, that are much more relevant examples, right? Okay, what I am seeing right now, I don't know if I'm right or wrong maybe, but then what I'm seeing right now is as fast as these new companies can take the switch, the old companies normally take some time to take the switch. I am talking right now in perspective of AI, right? Okay, and also I have seen one more trend that is growing day by day is somewhere we are just hallucinating a problem that doesn't actually exist with the name of AI. Okay, that like AI can solve this problem, AI can solve that problem, right? Okay, or this software can solve this problem. But did that problem really existed in the market is something that we must really think about. Now the problem is that just because this problem is a problem for the startup owner or for the business owner, the founder, this problem becomes a business idea and it goes into the market, which I have normally seen going downsides, right? So what do you feel? That is AI really solving some problem, or is it just at the ground level, or just is it at the root level? What is
So AI is just a tool. Just like there are other softwares, right? There are other languages. AI is just a tool. How you use that tool is up to you. So it's not about whether AI is at a peak or it's at a ground level. It's not about that. It's just about you have this tool. Now how do you use it? So to give you a simple perspective, there were cameras 20 years ago as well, right? But were they 4K cameras? Is 4K camera really required right now when full HD is enough? 8K cameras are coming. Why do you need 8K? People cannot even support 4K right now on their TVs at the moment, right? People do not have enough bandwidth to kind of like even execute 4K. Forget about full HD. People are still viewing in 720p. To give you a simple perspective, right? But technology keeps evolving because there is a market for every single problem statement. Now 8K is a problem statement for probably people who are ultra rich, who have got like 100 pixels or 100 inch screens, right? They require those kind of different setup, right? But then there is a market for everything. It could be a small market. There are some markets that are emerging market. To give you a very complete analogy with data. So one of our first product is known as Neom.ai. It's one of the first legal tech platform in India. So now when we launched Neom, the market capital of a legal tech space in India is just 715 million. That's it. It's not even $1 billion market. But at the same time, it's probably growing at around like 22% now. Because the young lawyers that are coming, by the way, there are 20 lakh registered lawyers in India. Only 2 lakh registered lawyers in India understand tech out of that. So that's just 10% of the entire lawyers community who understand a bit of tech, not tech savvy. Out of that, probably just 25 are tech savvy. So that's just 1.2% of the entire market that understands software, right? This is why the scale is so low. Because people who are good lawyers now, they're probably around like 14, 15. It's very difficult for them to adapt tech. The only thing that they know is how to scroll Instagram, probably know a bit about Facebook, and know how to use WhatsApp. That's pretty much right. But now if we talk about the young lawyers that are coming in, they are just graduating, just passing out, they are aware of how to do legal research, using Google properly, using ChatGPT or whatever it is, or the matter of fact, even Neum, right? Whatever the platform that exists, now this market is growing, and in next 5 years, the growth rate is going to exceed even higher. Sometimes you get into market that is about to burst, but it's going to take time. Just like, for example, if you talk about even ChatGPT, the company started back in 2016. But when did they go mainstream and get the attention in 2022? Now, was AI really needed? No. Life was still going on. Right? If technological people start thinking about, I don't need to build this, then new technologies would never come in. Right? You always build technologies to improve people's life. Now, initially the adoption could be low, but eventually the adoption will increase. It's just like mobile phones, or matter of fact, computers. When they came in, people were like, it's going to take away our jobs, things like that. But today it has created far more opportunities for people than otherwise it wouldn't have. You would have spent, people speed things up. So again, whenever it's any technology, whether it's emerging or in the market, eventually the market will grow and understand there is a need for it. Sometimes it just takes time.
Right. So out of the, you said you had invested in somewhat 38 startups, right? Okay. Out of these 38, how do you feel that really, making it, or will make it go through the years?
I think I can count 3 of these. that actually has the potential to be a unicorn. So generally what happens in the investment world is you expect 1 in 10 company to actually make it big, right? So
the investors know about it.
Everyone knows about it.
Right.
Everyone knows, right? Because there are so many uncertainties in a startup. It's not just the market condition. I remember one of the startup I invested in, they were building a house of brands, house of D2C in India. One of the first ones to do it. But surprisingly, the founder got some life-threatening disease. He had to shut down his company because of that. Now, who could have predicted something like this would happen in about 1.5 year post our investment time? So the founder was good. He returned as much capital as was left to his investors, and he had to shut down the company. There are so many uncertainties, right? It's not just the market condition, but sometimes it's the corporate governance. I think I'm not going to name the company. Everyone is hearing about one of the companies based out of Delhi, Gurgaon. What's happening, all the corporate governance issues that you're seeing, because of that, the whole company is shutting down now.
Right.
So sometimes a lot of things happens that you are and I are not aware of, right? So because of that, whenever you get some opportunities to exit.
That was a smart move by next up. Okay. So let's take it to your life. What was the pivoting moment of your life? When did you feel that, oh, I made it through?
I think when I was 18 years old, I was one of the first person to build a WordPress security plugin. I was actively browsing through a lot of internet forums. Back then there was no Facebook groups or Twitter or anything, right?
Right.
We would spend a lot of time on internet forums back then. So I saw a lot of people were saying they were getting hacked, and this was the time when WordPress just came out, and it was the first good-looking CMS.
Okay.
So when I say good-looking, it was usable. Prior to that, I think most people were using a CMS known as Joomla. Even to publish a post, it would require you to do a PhD.
Okay.
It was that complicated, right?
Okay.
So when WordPress came in, it was very usable. It was very user-friendly. And it was open source. So whenever a new open source comes in, it's hackable.
Right.
So everyone's website was getting hacked. So I was like, why don't I build some basic things? So I ended up creating a plugin, and I did about $350,000 in just 1 month. So at the age of 18, $350,000 back in that time is close to around over $1 million in today's time. At least I'm talking about, right? So became financially independent at the age of 18 itself. Again, like that thing was planned, right? I just saw a problem statement and built a product. That is when I knew product is my calling. And since then I've been just building products and selling products my whole life.
So I would now like to move to the entrepreneur side of your life. Okay, I have met a lot of entrepreneurs. Earlier, I have written a book also, which has been a version of what entrepreneurs say. Because for that also, I did interview a lot of entrepreneurs. The same thing I'm continuing now with this podcast. And whenever I meet entrepreneurs, I have seen normally that, like, some of the entrepreneurs are very chill, very cool kind of people, okay? While some are like, don't go to kind of people. I've also seen some of the people who are like, very data based and very sorted, कि नहीं जब तक टीम से नहीं आता, जब तक मुझे ये report नहीं आती, मैं ये decision नहीं लूँगा. Okay, so when it comes to decision making, which is like, I feel as an entrepreneur, it's the most critical skill, that is decision making. So I just want to understand, when it comes to decision making, what is your way to it? Like, do you go by guts or by reports or by teams? How is it?
No, so I do combine data with gut feel, right? So once I have the data in front of me, then I trust my gut at that stage. Ki, do I go for it or not, right? Because sometimes data could say something else, but your gut could be saying something else. But at the end of the day, I trust my gut. Every time I've gone against my gut, it has been a disaster, right?
Even if the report
even if the report says it's all good, if I've gone against, I've tried this multiple times going against my gut, and every time it's a 100% failure rate if I've gone against my gut. So at the end of the day, I trust my gut.
I have talked to so many people who have said me this. That, like, all the reports come in, although we believe, all of us believe data. Like, for me also data is very useful. But then when it comes to believing your gut feelings at certain decisions, it's like, no, my gut works much more better than what the reports showed. So
you get an instinct, right? You just gotta learn to trust your instinct. And I think by the time you get into your 30s, you know whether your instinct is right or wrong. Because you go through so many of your career phases, changes, ups and downs, right? That you start believing and trusting, should I even trust my instinct or not?
Right.
So at the end of the day, I think once you get to a stage where you have to make decisions, just analyze, go behind 10 years and see how many times your instinct has told you something and you have gone against it and you have gone with it, and what sort of results you have. So again, your instinct is a sort of data as well.
Right.
You just look at that way, right? So with me, every time I've gone against it, it has been a disaster for me every single time. So I know for the fact, my instinct is, if it's telling me something, I will say.
Right. So, now I'll go a little bit deeper on the service side, software side. I have been working with a lot of service businesses. And whenever software people come to, we have a slight issue on bringing in new build-ups for the softwares just because customers want. Okay. So I'd like to ask to you, because sometimes it just happens that it is so sudden that if at all, if you have to build it over a week or at a span of 3 or 4 days, okay, is it workable? Should one do it? And if one does it, how?
So it really depends upon the scope. So again, I'll give a simple analogy, right? If you want to turn, this was a bare empty room. If you had to turn this into a podcast, there's a lot of planning, a lot of things that has to be done, right? If I give you a timeline of 3 days, your biggest question, can I even arrange the materials in 3 days? Right? So whenever you define a scope, you have to also analyze, is it a nice to have a feature or is it a must to have a feature? And out of my 100 customers, how many of it actually wants? If it's less than 25% people, I'm not going to build it. I'm going to push it into my roadmap. I'm not going to say no, but I'm just going to say it's not that important. If it's that important to you, pay up upfront, and I'm happy to deploy this thing, right? And if you say that, and the customer tells you, I'm ready to pay, let you know where to send the money, that means they really want it. But if they say, no, it's okay, I will wait, you get your answer. So again, you have to cross-validate by asking people, are you willing to pay for it? Right? So you get kind of like a validation at that stage.
Right. So this is for all the service business owners, right? For all you software people have got the code cracked for you. So one more question here comes in Udit, where I want to know, what if one of your loyal clients is trying to leave you? What do you do with that?
Yeah.
Loyal clients. They have been working with you for the past, say, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. They have been working with you continuously, but then now they've threatened to leave you. Well,
that happens all the time, right? Yeah. So I think whenever that happens, just ask them, what's wrong? Generally, if someone wants to leave you, there is something wrong, right? And there's always a pattern. No one would come up one day and tell you I'm leaving. Right? Either there have been a support issue for consistent, or they're not getting timely responses, or the solution is not working for them. But that is a consistent pattern before a client decides to leave, or they're not getting results at the end of the day. Because just like them, the team has also invested into learning your product. And more than the cost of the product, the cost of learning the product is far bigger for an organization. And this is why if you see bigger companies or medium-sized companies, they are scared of quitting a software and moving to some other software. Because it has taken 6 months, a year for their team to understand and produce results from it. So now to move that is difficult for them, because they have to again retrain all their employees, all their team members again. That becomes a pain point, right? So this is where you do things.
Right. So as you said, obviously it's not right for people also to shift softwares so easily. And in order to build also the softwares, it takes so much of time, money, right? But with technology coming in, don't you think these processes have become much more faster?
Partially yes, partially no. Partially yes, because it only works out if you have experienced developers in your team. Because the code gen that is coming in, they are able to push codes a little faster, but you still require someone who can understand the code, right? So it's like, if I'm not a architect, if you ask me to design this, I might create a blunder, right? Similar to that, if someone who's not a software developer and they get access to such tools, and there have been narrative that, oh, you can build a software without a developer, it doesn't work. You need to have knowledge.
Right.
Don't go into those perspectives, because they are just trying to sell your software. That's all. So they have to push some narratives as well, because at the end of the day, everyone is trying to sell, right? So just understand these things, focus on what you're really good at, and then get the right people who have the right expertise to do right things. Right? Just like how you are a coach, you are focusing on providing the right growth mindset to the entrepreneurs. If I try to do that, I'm not a coach. I'll straight up tell them, do this or don't do this. I don't have the patience to teach them at that stage, right? I will be very honest and straightforward. Look, don't do this, please, right?
Right.
I'm not a guide. No, you have to do this, you have to do that. I don't have that sort of patience, right? So everyone has got a different expertise and skill set. At the end of the day, if you want to build a company is not built by one person. It's built by a bunch of group of people. They can be your team, they can be your external team, they can be your internal team, they can be some consultants, advisors, but there is a group of people involved that leads to a successful business, and it's never one person.
Right. One of my clients recently told me this, he also said the same thing. I was like, see, you are coach, you can train them, I can know.
Yeah.
For me, it's yes or no, Baba.
Yeah.
You know it, you do it, otherwise we leave it.
Yeah.
That's right. That's interesting. Okay. So, one thing that I want to understand, how do you know that, we were talking about gut feeling some time back, right? Okay. So, how do you know that, yes, this is something that I want to do and, I should go for it? What is it that keeps motivating you as an entrepreneur?
So I think one of the very important things in your life is you should never be satisfied with where you are. The moment you get into that satisfactory zone, you would stop focusing on growth. And there's one thing that one of my co-founders said long back is, growth is uncomfortable, right? So if you want to grow in life, it is going to come at discomfort at many levels, right? If someone wants to lose weight, they have to hit gym. No one is going to help them to trim weight, right? It's as simple as that. If you want to eat food, you have to cook. If you cannot cook, you still need to go make money so that you can order from outside. You still have to work on things, right? So similarly, if you want to continue growing in life, don't be happy that you have achieved something, build new goals. But also it's very important that you have macro goals, but you take micro steps in life. Generally what people do is they have macro goals and they will take macro steps. Macro steps never work.
Right.
You have to take one step at a time if you want to reach somewhere, right? But focus on, look, I want to have my apartment at 60th floor, right? But I'm going to take one step at a time. It's not going to happen overnight. So take micro steps, but think macro. Thinking big helps you to achieve big in life. But if your dream itself is very small, then you would probably be satisfied. मेरे पास जिंदगी में सब कुछ है, मैं क्यों ही करूँ? So you need to motivate yourself. You cannot watch a video, read books, watch motivational videos to get motivation in life. You have to motivate yourself. Go get up and get going. So every time I reach certain goals, I'm like, नहीं, मुझे यहाँ पहुँचना है, right? So that keeps me going, and I think that keeps the hunger going on. Because if you're not hungry in life, you will not focus on chasing the forward.
Right. Okay. So as I told you, like, we have some curiosity, and what we do is every time a guest comes to our podcast, we make an email to our community, and we tell them to, like, get in questions that they would like to ask you. So although they're not here, but then their questions reach us every time via emails. And there's one particular question that really interested me, and I would like to ask you as well. What is the right time to get your platforms marketed? Like, while you're building it, or once you've built it, you've tested it out, and then you should start.
Oh, you can start marketing even before you have built the product.
No.
Yeah, start marketing during the idea stage. So there is a $100 concept that I have that's pretty popular, been implemented by a lot of founders, a lot of people. So generally the $100 concept works in a way that if you have an idea, go and figure out a niche, a vertical, and find out 100 people. Now, how do you do that? Get LinkedIn Sales Navigator for a month. I think they give you 1 or 2 months of free trial. Use that, put up the categories, and once you have the categories over there, go and start sending emails to all of them. You get a free email because you have premium. Send out those messages, emails to at least 100 people who are relevant. Also, Navigator has got one very beautiful option known as who has posted in the last 30 days. So check that. Now you're only reaching out to those people who are active on LinkedIn, right? So now when you reach out to the 100 people, after you have pitched, ask them to pay $1 for your idea. Tell them the moment my product is out, I am probably going to be selling it at about $500 a year subscription. I'll give you the first 5 years for just $1. That's a great value. $2,500 for $1. Now, if someone still doesn't see the value, that means either your idea is wrong or they don't trust you enough. Now, you have to find out which one of that is the case with that particular person.
Right.
If it's the idea, by the time you reach to 100 people, you would have reiterated your whole idea to what you actually want to build, because now you're talking to people to understand what the problem statement is rather than just figuring out how ye problem statement is. Now, out of those 100 people, if you are able to convince 20 people to pay $1, your success rate of building that platform and selling that platform is 20%. If you're able to convince 80 people, which is what you should do before building the product, your success rate of succeeding with that platform is 80%. By the way, this entire process will take 3 months. It's not that overnight process. And the amount of feedback that you would get, because everyone today has an opinion. And you're also reaching out to decision makers, by the way. So they will have a very strong opinion. Take those opinions, take those feedbacks. Now, if you want to take it further, record if you can convince them to get on a 15-minute call. Now, here is another strategy you can do. See what kind of activities that they generally do on their social media. Generally Instagram, because Instagram is a little more personal. See what kind of, let's say, t-shirts they wear. Send out a t-shirt for this. And just give me 15 minutes of your time and I'm going to send you a t-shirt. Now, this is not a cost. This is an investment you're making because you're also building a relationship with those people. You might not be able to sell this product or build this product, but tomorrow if you build something else, you'll be able to sell it because you've already built the connection with that particular person, right? So this is how you do things. Now, once you have that data, once you get the recording, use any recording software like Fireflies or whatever you want, or native Google. Write down all the transcription. Now, once you put in 100 transcription or 100 transcription, throw that into ChatGPT. Ask it to refine it. Give me ideas and tell me, break it down for me. What idea should I build? Is my idea validated or not? Or should I build something else? You will now have so much data sitting with you that based on that data, you can now make a decision that this is exactly it. This is how you combine your gut, instinct, data, conversations with people, everything, and this is how you use AI in the right particular manner.
Amazing. I think you have given out a master magic plan to everyone out here. So anyone who was still sitting with the idea, I think you need to take down notes from what Udit said and start moving towards creating a better plan, better ideas, and just use the way that he said. I think this is bang on. I mean, this is just going to work with anyone, whether you have an idea or you're just starting to think an idea also. Because my next question I was going to come up that only, that what if I sit on an idea, what do I need to do? So I think that part is also relevantly answered. So thank you so much, Udit, for adding this insight. And moving to the last part of our show, where we really love to ask weird questions to our guests. Okay? So we have a rapid fire round here right now. And I would really ask you questions, but I would like you to answer them really quick so that we don't get time to think a lot. And let's just get started, okay? So the first app that you check after waking up.
The first app that I check waking up is probably WhatsApp.
Okay, reason?
Yeah, so I recently got Roka fight, so I check my phone.
That's nice. That's nice. So you wait for good morning messages. Okay. Which ground is one word?
It's my dream. It's my heart.
Wait. One tech trend we'll all laugh about in 5 years. What's going to be funny?
This is a tough one actually. I can't do rapid fire on this one. Because tech evolves so much now that I think everyone would just laugh about AI itself, because AI will become such a huge part of our life that what used to us, like, oh my god, I remember when 3 years ago I was one of the first few users to get access to OpenAI 3.0 when they released the API. We were able to create this one headline copy, and people were like, oh my god, I clicked a button and it created, and today it feels like, oh my god, kya hai, right? Today if you build such software, they'll be like, ki, what are you building? Right?
Seriously,
Yeah.
and it's going to become a laugh of the town. Like you see models modeling on the using AI models, like people are modeling with their
People are buying actually.
jewelry and
Yeah.
clothes and all of the stuff is happening. I mean,
A lot of those things
A lot
will
of things
cut
are-
down, right? Everything is gonna get replaced by AI.
yeah, right. Okay, so what do you favor, build or buy?
Both.
Uh,
You have to be smart when to build and when to buy, right? If you see a good distress sale, buy right away. And then build on top of it. So there's this amazing founder known as Marcus Lemonis, billionaire. I think he runs something known as Profits on CNBC. I think every entrepreneur on this planet should watch that. He goes and buys majority decision-making stake in a distressed company, and he only works with retail companies, right? That means like they have an actual store or something, right? He would go in, he would understand why they're making losses, because generally the processes are messed up. It's generally operational issues, right? Why someone is losing money is because of operations. He goes, gives them a check on the spot, make a decision on the spot. He buys a majority stake, or probably would buy, but he generally wants the entrepreneurs to keep running it. And now, because of that, he's built a whole community and probably invested in like hundreds of such companies and turned all of them into multi-million-dollar profit, right? So I think it just depends when you want to buy and when you want to kind of like build. If something doesn't exist, then obviously you have to build. But I think that's one show everyone should watch.
wow. So what's harder for you to crack, product market fit or a 5-year meeting?
Oh, I think I can crack both of them.
You crack-
I've done 5-year meetings my entire
What she is.
teenage, during my entire teenage and early 20s.
First, that is.
Can't do it anymore.
Now that you're
Yeah.
afraid, you can't. Okay, so this is one thing that we would like to end with. Okay, like suppose you start from scratch from tomorrow. Okay, what is the first thing that you will do?
Do I have money, or do I not have money?
Okay, so like suppose you have a little bit of pocket money in space with you.
Okay. So I think the first thing, if I were to build something today, or if I want to get started, I think the first thing I'll do is identify what I'm really good at, the problem statement I'm really good at. I'm gonna go and see what's the best product there available in the market. Then I'm gonna go to the second best product, right? And I'm gonna tell the second person, let me make you the number one. Because second one is more hungrier than the first one. First one is already sitting comfortable.
Right.
Second one is more hungrier, right? I'm gonna go and tell him, let me make you number one, right? For that, you allow me to sell this product in this particular market. I'm gonna go test, sell over there, bring the results. That's how I'm gonna get started. So my investment over here is absolutely zero. I'm not putting any money. I'm going out there because I'm already going and chasing the second best product. That means the product is already validated and tested. to sell those products becomes a lot more easier for me. So my overall investment is only my time at that stage, right? Kind of like I am putting my time into a service to begin with. It doesn't require anything apart from your core skill set. That's what I'm going to do once I have enough money. Now I have learned on someone else's money, right? So I always say one thing, that if you don't have money, make mistake on someone else's money. Don't make mistake on your own money. It hurts, right? So a lot of young people always ask me as well, ki, Udit, like, I want to start a startup. And I'm like, I ask them, what's your age? Like 20, 21. I'm like, don't fall into this media trap. Your 20 should go into working under amazing entrepreneurs, because that's when you learn. The average age of a successful founder is 40. You're 20. You're half of the age. Go out there, make mistakes, learn. Your 20s is all about mistakes, because you don't have responsibilities on your shoulder at this age, right? So when you don't have responsibilities, you can make mistakes much more freely. But when you get into your 30s, you don't get time to commit mistakes anymore. Because now you have responsibilities. A lot of people would have kids. So now you have responsibilities, you take less risk in life. 20s is all about taking risk. That's when you learn. That's when you figure out what you want to do. 20s is not about doing something, it's about figuring out, so that you know what to do in your 30s. A lot of these media hikes generally lead to a lot of challenges that people are completely blindsided because of one founder doing extremely well in their 20s. They believe everyone can do it, but they don't talk about millions that are failing, because that's not a narrative that will get clicks for them.
Right.
So it's very important to understand these aspects and sort of make it. So that's what I would do. If I had nothing even today, and if I had to get started, I would just do that. And more importantly, learn sales. I think everyone should learn sales.
Thank you for adding so many deep insights of it. I think this conversation was really, really interesting, and I hope all the viewers really enjoyed it. Well, if you feel that you learned something from this podcast, don't forget to put it down in the comments. We would love to see what you learned from this long conversation between me and Udit. And also, we would love to come up with more exciting episodes of Satya Manthan. So do go there, click on the button, subscribe right now, share it with someone whom you feel this podcast might help. That's for now. We'll see you in another video, in another episode of Podcast Satya Manthan.